So welcome to the 7th episode of the Gutenberg Times Live Q&A. My name is Birgit Pauli-Haack, and I'm the curator and publisher of the Gutenberg Times. I'm thrilled to have with me on this show, I'm hearing the YouTube, sorry. I have with me on the show Choyce, who is a product designer at Automatic, Gutenberg and a Gutenberg contributor and founder of Tomodomo. It's very easy to say, but Chris from Patten and Joshua Wold, the design strategist at XWP. All four of us are core contributors with kudos on WordPress 5.0, and we will be involved in phase 2 of Gutenberg one way or other, I think. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, pulling away from WordCamp US and after the Russian WordPress 5.0 release.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes. It's nice to be home, but it was a great event to go to. It's my first WordCamp US.
Yeah, and we have Chris with Christmas decorations. Thank you for that. So this is the Christmas edition of Gutenberg Times Live Q&A. We are also streaming live on YouTube on the Gutenberg Times channel, and we will publish this as a podcast with transcription and show notes. And once in a while I say we will have that in the show notes, and I keep my promise. So you can do it on demand and not have to be live here. We might not get to all your questions, but we will see. And but then we will definitely answer them either through the Gutenberg Times on the show notes or via email if I know who they came from. So thank you also for the listeners for coming in today. And I hope you brought a lot of questions. Topic-wise, we will have a lot of ground. We could cover a lot of ground, but and how deep we want to go, that's up to you with your questions. The three of us are reporting back from Nashville, where WordCamp US just took place last weekend. It was a wonderful show, but it was also a lot of work for a lot of us because we were also on sponsors. With the sponsors, we're also talking. Some of us are talking or supporting the rest of the team. And then also after WordCamp US, there were the Automatic Design Awards. The inaugural Automatic Design Awards were announced. And that kind of totally somehow was under the radar. And the winners are all involved in Gutenberg. It was really quite a show. So I'll start us off with a couple of questions. And then I hope you all, our listeners are warmed up to ask their questions. But before, let's start with introduction of our speakers today. So I will ask you, okay, where do you live? What do you do for fun? What did you do before you got involved in Gutenberg and WordPress project? And what do you do for a living? So all things can be one, but sometimes it has 4 different answers. So Mel, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm Mel Choyce. I'm a product designer at Automatic. My time is donated back fully to the WordPress project, so I work on WordPress core full time. I live in the Boston area, technically in Cambridge, so over the river, in Massachusetts. So for fun, I've been playing. So I've been like a huge gamer my whole life, but this past year I've played a lot more games really than I have, I think, in the past couple of years. I've just been like really into it recently. There's been a lot of really cool stuff coming out. So spend a lot of my time when I'm not working on WordPress doing that.
So what's your favorite game right now?
So I've been playing the Tomb Raider series. I haven't played the most recent one yet because I'm like, maybe I should wait until it's not $60. But I just played the first 2 games in the series, and I've actually never played Tomb Raider before. So okay. It was kind of like a really fun reboot to start playing. I've been enjoying it a lot.
Well, thank you. And yeah, Joshua, right?
Yeah.
Do people call you Joshua or Josh?
They call me both, and I'll respond to both. I'm fine either way. I live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. It's a beautiful little place close to Canada. mountains, resorts, lake town. I love it here. And I work at XWP, where I am a UX designer. And part of my time is sponsored back to the core project. So I get to work with Mel and with Tammy and with others on the design team inside of core. And I love that. It's a lot of fun. For fun, I am a recovering gamer, so I love all kinds of games. So what I like are social games, get together with my friends and some family members in the evenings, and once the kids are down, we do board games and video games and stuff like that. Otherwise, I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old, so hanging out with them and getting together with friends and family in town.
Yeah, that's a different game theory right there with kids.
Yes, they have different ideas about what's fun.
Right. And Chris, welcome.
Well, yeah, it's great to be here. So I'm Chris Van Patten, based in Brooklyn, New York, and I am the founder of Tomodomo, which is a small little agency where we basically help independent magazines and publishers, print or digital, build their WordPress-powered web platforms to basically give them kind of all the cool tools that a lot of big publishers have. For fun, I contribute to WordPress, so that's a lot of what I do in my spare time as well. And I'm currently working on leading the documentation effort for WordPress 5.0. So all the new developer documentation, obviously the new user documentation, things have kind of changed for everybody. And so we're working on, as quickly as we can, getting a lot of that documented and published to help people enjoy Gutenberg and the experience that we've all been working on.
Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for being here. So Chris, let's explore a little bit more what you're excited about in Gutenberg. And Chris, I know you spoke at WordCamp Publisher earlier this year, and you did a deep dive into creating custom layouts for your editors. And that's part that excites me quite a bit. And can you offer that you can offer flexible layouts to editors, and they can see when they choose one how it's going to look before they hit save, and they can kind of see this is better than this, but they don't have to switch 15 times between the editor and the front end, and they don't need any third-party page builder for that. So you have done quite a deep dive into that because part of your talk was about that. What's your insights from that? And it's been a couple of months, well, maybe 4 or 5 months that you were there. And what are the lessons that you learned when you built these layouts for editors? How did that
Yeah. So this was my biggest project of the year. We had started late last year in 2017 and kind of went in saying, hey, this new Gutenberg thing is coming out. We knew they had a page builder on their site that they couldn't stand. I won't name it, but it was a popular plugin that they just couldn't, it wasn't working for their workflow. So I said, hey, this new Gutenberg thing's going to come out in like April. We should really get on, because they wanted to launch in late March. And I was like, great, we're going to get you on the betas. We'll launch in April. Of course, April came and went. May, June, July. We finally launched in August, but it's been a really great experience. And as you alluded to, a big part of that was figuring out ways that they could build kind of complex layouts on their site without a page builder tool. So practically that meant building a custom columns block that allowed them to set certain widths so they could put content next to other content. But in fact, at the end of the day, their entire site is powered by Gutenberg. We actually even completely hid the widgets section on the site. They are able to use menus, but otherwise, it's interesting because actually a lot of the work that we did for them is kind of a custom version of what it looks like we're going to do in phase 2. So all the different sidebar areas of the site, the shared area below posts that has like calls to action and things, all of that kind of stuff is now powered by Gutenberg. And they've loved it. It's been really incredible. And for me as well, they're a small publisher, a print magazine, but then also over the course of the past few months since the site's gone live, they've also been able to build microsites. So they're on a multi-site, and we can spin up very quickly a new microsite for them to like launch specialized content for different promotions or different courses that they want to offer. And they can basically go in and we set up the multi-site instance for them, but then they can go in and build these sites out kind of however they want to, with really needing no involvement from us. So that's been really cool to see them empowered to create these sites, and being able to do that because of Gutenberg has been really cool and really rewarding.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So being ahead of the curve a little bit, but also you might need to redesign or restructure some of that when phase 2 comes to pass. But I think it's, yeah. So how, Joshua, you got involved in the early process of Gutenberg, and now you're involved in the AMP plugin project, and which works with Gutenberg. So what can you tell us about that, and what features are you working on?
Yeah, right now with the AMP plugin, one of the things that we did, and I think the 0.7 release, is we took all the core blocks and we made sure that they could be AMP compatible to just give a baseline for people who want to use AMP and Gutenberg together. Beyond that, and actually Mina, one of my coworkers, gave a talk at WordCamp US about this, extending some of the core blocks to allow for extra functionality. Simple example, an image block in Gutenberg in AMP, you might want to be able to say it's a cover image or a full-size image, or et cetera, and you want to extend the blocks a little bit. So that's something we've worked on with XWP and Google together. One of the things I'm really excited about is AMP Stories is still this alpha product that we've been working on with Google, and seeing what creating this story interface in WordPress could eventually look like. So that's fun for me. On a more personal level, I turned on Gutenberg for my own website, I think in the summer or fall, and I've really enjoyed writing blog articles in WordPress first now. And that's a huge shift, because for years past, I would not write them in the classic editor. That was not a good experience for me, not because there was something bad. It just didn't feel like this inspiring place to write articles. So now I often will write first in Gutenberg. So what I'm excited about next year is, can I build out pages first in Gutenberg instead of designing them in Figma or Sketch or Illustrator, without my developer hat on? Can I actually use this area in Gutenberg using some of the new special blocks to build out more complex pages? So that's what I've actually been trying to do this week on a website, and I'm excited to see how we can get Gutenberg up to that level.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm actually a really fan. I didn't know or didn't think I would be, but I'm absolutely a fan of AMP Stories, because looking at them on my phone, yes, because they give me the little snippet, enough text combined with an image or a video, and then I can scroll through almost like a little booklet that I can just kind of go through that. So being able to do this with Gutenberg, I think that makes a whole lot of difference. It's really cool. So
yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and I wish I could see. I think when we talked at WordCamp US, you offered me a little demo from the beta plugin, but it was so chaotic. Yeah, I didn't have a quiet minute to say, okay, Joshua, to find you. Yeah, and then Joshua will sit down and show me that. But we will do this in the near future. Now, Mel, you have been working on blocks for the WordCamp sites, and you also contributed to the customizer. And we're co-lead for, I think it was 4.8, right?
4.9.
4.9.
Yeah.
So
but
close.
I worked on 4.8 too.
So close. Okay. And then you also did a talk at the LoopConf, also with the idea, okay, what could Gutenberg Phase 2 look like? So, but what is it really that excites you about Gutenberg?
Yeah, for me, it's really like exactly what Chris was talking about, like being able to take what would normally be like a really hard experience for our customers and our clients, and making that way easier and way more intuitive with Gutenberg. So I've been playing around with a lot of different block ideas recently, just like looking at like what can we do, where can we kind of push things, what should be a block, what shouldn't be a block. And so I think those, like the possibilities that we have there now are really exciting. I've done a lot of work in Squarespace in the past year on like the volunteer side of things. I've been doing a lot of like political candidate websites in Squarespace, and I feel like at the beginning of the year when I started doing that, I was like, oh my God, Squarespace is so much better. This is terrible. WordPress, oh my gosh. But as Gutenberg's gotten better, there's like, I'm starting to notice things in Squarespace that I think Gutenberg does way better. And like, I feel like that's starting to finally like turn around, and I'm like, this is awesome. Like I'm enjoying making sites in WordPress much more now that I have Gutenberg.
Right. Yeah. I'm working on a project that compares Wix, Squarespace, WordPress, and Weebly to get a basic nonprofit website going, because we see that in the space of nonprofits that they start out at Squarespace or Wix or wherever, and then come over to WordPress, and I want to save them the time to kind of waste on other platforms to do it with WordPress. So we have a few participants in this show. I'm just kind of looking at YouTube if we who joined us there, and I just need to make sure that I mute my my other computer so we don't have colliding streams here. We don't have any questions, so let's just go through what we have here. So you all, or some of you, came back from WordCamp. So what was the most memorable thing that you brought back from WordCamp US, or what you definitely need to follow up after Gutenberg, after WordCamp US when, in terms of Gutenberg?
For me, this was my first US, so it was just the experience of seeing what the whole event was like. I got to go to Europe earlier this year and then US this year. I'd say memorable for me is knowing WordPress 5.0 was about to launch the day before the event started. So walking around, seeing I saw Gary and Tammy over on the side trying to still work on things. I was talking to Jeff Paul in our Airbnb. Just the excitement of trying to get this thing launched was pretty memorable. And the other thing was getting to meet people that I have never met. Mel and I got to meet for the first time in person after working together for almost 2 years. And then people I have met, just getting to spend time with them. So that connecting with people and then being there for 5.0 launching was the big thing for me.
Yeah. How about you, Mel?
So I feel like probably the 2 weeks leading up to WordCamp US, I was feeling kind of really down and negative about things, just because like I think there was so much stress around the release of Gutenberg. And then I got there, and like within an hour of me landing in Nashville, it was launched, like 5.0 was out. And then I felt like the entirety of WordCamp US, like I was kind of expecting to like feel more of that negativity towards Gutenberg, but everybody I talked to was actually like really, really excited. Everyone like was talking about the possibilities. I had some really great conversations with community members. I talked to some folks from Beaver Builder about kind of the future of themes. They have some great ideas there. And everyone was just like really excited, really enthusiastic, and like totally willing to embrace like the future and Gutenberg, which I think was really great after like kind of the chaos of the pre-release cycle. Yeah.
Totally. So, Chris, you're feeling a little FOMO for WordCamp US, not being part of it. How was the release for you on your side of the United States?
Yeah, it was good. It was like a weird day. I had some stuff going on, so like I wasn't even at my laptop as much as I normally would be. I was actually on the subway. If you've ever been in the New York subway, it doesn't have cell service in the tunnels. It only has it in stations. So I was like, I'd pull into a station and I'd like quickly like turn off airplane mode and like try to like refresh to see what was going on, and like Slack wouldn't load or whatever. But it was really cool to see it go live. And I'm really proud of everything that everyone built. And it's been really smooth, knock on wood, so far. So I hope it continues.
Yeah, it was pretty much the first release that I kind of watched closely, and that closely because I was at the sponsor table in the area where and Tammy, Gary, Jonathan, and William, they were all sitting together at the help desk or the future happiness lounge from WordCamp US on Thursday, and we were talking with sponsors on how to set up the booth and everything, and I saw them sitting there, and I always wanted to go over there. Is it live yet? It's live yet? But of course, you don't want to do that. But I got a pretty good shot when it was live. And but then I also realized that there is a real there's a launch going on, a launch countdown going on the Slack channel. That it's almost like a rocket launch, right? And that was it's really when you see that for the first time, yeah, it's kind of it's exciting, yeah, mm-hmm. And to finally get it done. I would have hoped that Gutenberg was out in August, just because I don't want that negativity to go on and on and on and on. Yeah, release it and then everybody can be done with it. Not done with it in terms of it's done, but in terms of is it in core or not core? Yeah, make the decision, have it in core, and the plugin developers and theme developers that were on the holding pattern, because they said, oh, I don't know when it's going to release. I don't bother with it right now. That now they have to bother and make a decision on how they're gonna. And I would love to have that kind of 3 or 4 months earlier, just to get it over with and then have the hiccups in there.
Yeah, there was so much emotional energy that I feel like was extended right beforehand, just like everyone just stressing about it launching. And I think once it launched, a lot of that like was relieved.
Yeah, and so, yeah, we can't change it anymore. Yeah, no matter what we say. So let's get on with it in our lives. Yeah. So, did you get to see any talks? There were 4 or 5 talks about Gutenberg. Carrie Pendergast was talking. Helen Sandy was talking. Jason Ball and Andrew Taylor. They had specifically Gutenberg talks. Did you get to see any of that? Do you want to, Josh?
Yeah, I was able to watch Helen's talk this week on YouTube, so I was able to listen through that, I think yesterday, and then I watched, the only other talk I watched was Mina's, and talking about AMP and Gutenberg and what we had done with that. All the rest, I was so busy through the event, I didn't see any.
Did you get to the State of the Word?
I watched most of it from my Airbnb.
But isn't it grand that we can live stream and still be part of it? Yeah. How about you, Chris? Did you see anything on a live stream or State of the Word?
I did not. I have to confess, after 5.0 dropped, I kind of spent the next like 48 hours basically just like not ignoring the internet, but kind of intentionally limiting my intake. There's definitely an information overload that happens during big WordCamps on Twitter, especially if you follow a lot of people. So I kind of made the conscious effort to avoid it a little bit and then kind of come back to it when I could take in the news at my own pace. But yeah, I mean, I think like Mel said, like the thing that kind of, even in hindsight, didn't surprise me, but was nice to see was that a lot of the anxiety, once the event started and once 5.0 had been released, there's still obviously problems and there are certainly going to continue to be complaints, but a lot of that stress and anxiety was sort of palpably lifted, which was certainly nice to see and also nice to feel, I think, for everybody.
How about you, Mel?
So I got to see a dry run of Gary's talk the night before. He was practicing it, and so I got to like help give him some feedback. I like that he took kind of an inspiration focus. So like here, here's the future. Here's what we should do with it. I also got to see Helen's talk. It was one of the ones that I made sure to make time in my schedule to go to. And it was like exactly as awesome as I expected it to be. She talked about creating custom client interfaces and replacing meta boxes, and kind of like the evolution from meta boxes to blocks. And like that kind of thing is what really gets me excited about Gutenberg and like all the possibilities. I feel like she's given like kind of similar talks before on what they've done with meta boxes. So like this was the next evolution of that, and like being able to like compare what I had heard her talk about before to like what she's working on now, I thought was super cool.
Yeah, you saw Helen's talk too, Joshua, and any additional thoughts there?
I in watching through the talk, I love that she was sharing that meta boxes felt like it had stalled the conversation, that we had there were so many innovative things happening in the space. Then meta boxes, like for 5 years, almost nothing innovative happened. And the sense I got from her is we've kind of kick-started out of that, and we have the opportunity to expand beyond that and see what we can actually do. And one of the things that really interested me is early in the Gutenberg process, Mel shared some of the philosophy behind how much should you show live preview versus how much should you have a separation between where you put in your content and you see your preview. And that nobody in any CMS has gotten that perfect. There is nothing out there that's perfect. I tried Squarespace about a month and a half ago, and I did a whole Twitter rant about how frustrated I was, thinking I thought it would be perfect, and then I ran into some problems. So all that's to say, I found Helen's talk inspiring that there's some cool new things on the horizon that we can do right now and that are coming up.
Yeah, I felt the same way when I listened to Helen talking, that we can do a one-on-one. Okay, this was what MetaBoxes does, and when I do it in Gutenberg, it looks the same, and we can then move on or kind of let it be that way. But there's so much more to talk about. With Gutenberg now opening up so much more opportunities. That was a very well done talk. Yeah, I also like Gary's approach to say, even if you're comfortable of what you're doing now with WordPress, don't let nostalgia get in the way of innovation and your own personal growth. And I like that because I've seen this in other areas in my life. Yeah, like the reunification of Germany. There was a time in the last 25 years where the Eastern Germans, there was a nostalgia to the previous government kind of thing, because the bad things are kind of falling off of memory, and the good things are kind of emphasized. And I think that's could also something that happens in WordPress, that we're so comfortable with what we're doing right now that something new is really is an interruption. And I think a lot of people feel that way, that it's not in their control to change. And I'm glad that the classic editor is meant to be supported at least until December 31st, 2021. So I'm just kind of looking at the Q&A for the sessions here on the, we don't have any questions here, but on YouTube, Jeffrey Paul just posted a question and said, from the 9 projects that Matt mentioned in the State of the Word for 2019, which are you most interested in contributing to? And just kind of to recap the 9 projects for those who don't see it, it's one is creating a blog for navigation menus, and he also mentioned that we probably need to call it something different because menus always confuse the restaurant people. Porting all existing widgets to blocks. Upgrading the widget editing areas in WP Admin and the customizer to support blocks, providing a way for themes to visually register content areas and exposing that to blocks, to Gutenberg, merging the site health check plugin into to assist in debugging and encouraging to good software hygiene. And then provide a way for users to opt in into automatic plugin and themes update, providing a way for users to opt into automatic updates of the major core releases, and then building a WordPress.org directory for discovering blocks and a way to seamlessly install them. And 9th, forming a triage team to tackle the 6,500 issues on track. So there are 9 areas, focus areas. Which one would you like to contribute to?
So in my case, it's the first 4 for sure. All the like Gutenberg design ones. Joshua and I have actually both worked on navigation menu blocks. There's a ticket that's been around like since the beginning of Gutenberg that we've both like tossed around ideas into. And so I'm starting to look again at that. I did kind of some like sketches right before WordCamp US that like now that that's over, I want to like return back to them and take a look. I've also already done a lot of design work on porting widgets to blocks. That was kind of my priority earlier in the year. And so I'm excited to see more of those get built because right now, like most of it's just like mockups in GitHub. So that'll be cool for sure.
For me, as Mel mentioned, one of the big ones I really am excited to go back to is the block to navigation menu thing. We did kick around some ideas a while ago, and at the contributor day at WordCamp US this week, right? Yeah. The design table split into a few areas, and one of the areas I was helping to kind of follow up on and work on was what the nav menu could look like as a block again. So there's some sketches. Tammy will be writing an article, I think next week, which will show some of the sketches that our team did. I'm excited about that and trying to figure out that beast, because it's a beast and it's a fun one. I love figuring out the problems more than the solutions sometimes. The other thing I'm excited about is you mentioned in WordPress.org opening up discoverability for blocks, for people to find extra blocks. Just this week, I was trying to build out a page, and I think I tried every single block editor out there with at least some decent installs. And I found some things I loved, and then some things that really annoyed me. And I want to see that get amazing. I want to see that be an awesome ecosystem 6 months from now with some really great block plugins. So opening that up on .org and those getting better, I'm excited about that.
You should write a blog post about that.
I should. I've got the outline in my head. I just need to do it because I have a ton of thoughts about it.
Yeah, I have. And how about you, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I'm most excited to see happen is that fourth item, the idea of like visually registering content areas, partly because it's something that I've done in a very rudimentary way. So it's naturally something I have a lot of opinions on. But I'm really excited to see that one. I feel like even before Gutenberg, I was kind of abusing the widget system in WordPress to do all kinds of things it wasn't really intended to do. And I'm excited that we're going to get a more flexible system, if not like directly at the beginning of phase 2, at some point. I think I'm excited to see where that heads over the next 6-12 months.
Yeah, I hear you on abusing the widget system. I feel like we were all doing that because there wasn't a better way, you know?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. I'm actually also excited about. I have not decided what I would contribute to, but I would write about everything on Gutenberg Times. But I'm really excited seeing what the support team kind of went through. Right now, or the since August, when the call out was in 4.9.8, they fielded a lot more support tickets on Gutenberg at the beginning. But to figure out which plugin and which page builder does not work with, having the health check plugin as built into core, I think that will alleviate a lot of stress, even if now Gutenberg is kind of really established in 6 months or something like that. Yeah, it helps for everything that you build new. When I was testing some of the plugins, like George said, for some of our sites, I ran into quite a few quirks. It wasn't really bugs, but it was quirks where I said, okay, well, we could do this better, but I didn't make a note of it. So but this is a great segue into the question that we have here from Tammy. So if you had to give 3 pieces of advice on building blocks, what would they be? So who wants to go first?
That's a great question. Go ahead.
Yeah. The first one would be follow core patterns. Use the components that already exist to their fullest capacity before looking to make a custom solution. And also, if there's something that doesn't exist, bring it up in the GitHub repo, because I feel like one of the most important ways that we can move forward with Gutenberg and design and WordPress in general is standardizing all of these patterns. We've been talking about a pattern library for like 6 or 7 years now, and it's impossible to do with WordPress in its current form. And like Gutenberg is finally opening up an opportunity to create like a living design system that lives in the code and like can be referenced so we don't have to keep updating sketch files, but like the true source can be like Gutenberg itself. So I guess that's number one. Number two would be keep it simple. Something I keep finding is that I start with a lot more complex options when I'm doing a block. And then I realize like it doesn't need to be this complex, and I like work it down to like as low as I can get it, while still like kind of accomplishing the same thing. And then three is just like talking to other people. I found it incredibly invaluable every time I like design a block to get feedback from people, just because like I always miss something, always. And like people are going to see things that I am not going to see, especially like you stare at a thing for so long and like you stop really seeing any of the details. You just kind of see the overall shape, and somebody coming in with fresh eyes always is able to like see those details that you've missed.
Very interesting. Chris, do you have any thoughts on that? You have probably a lot of thoughts. Can you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to kind of skate the other way because it's also the easiest answer for me to give, which is a more practical tip, which is focus first on figuring out the interaction model of the block and worry less about the way that your actual like markup and structure is saved. Something that I've found while building blocks, and it's a commonly reported issue, and I think something that there are ideas to improve, but the current way that the parser works, block validation and invalidation specifically, can be a real challenge if you need to change the output of your block a lot. So my kind of strategy now is that I wait as long as possible before figuring out, all right, now how does this translate to HTML that will show up on the front end? I'll even do a server rendered block until I'm kind of late in the process of building a block, just so I can kind of put that problem into the future. And that has helped me avoid a lot of headaches with your block is invalid. Do you want to try converting to blocks? I'm like, no, it is a block. I just changed it. So that's kind of my practical piece of advice, I guess.
No, that's very helpful. Yeah. Joshua?
For me, just coming off of the Automatic Design Awards, thinking about the things we reviewed and talked about, the category I was a panelist for was Best Solution. And when we were looking at the solutions that came in, the block plugins, et cetera, the one that I was so excited about was actually a block gallery, because it took a very simple concept and nailed it. And block gallery is actually a pleasure to use. It doesn't do that much. It just takes a gallery. It doesn't do that much, meaning it's not trying to be a toolkit for the world. It's trying to solve one problem really well. So if you're going to go build a block, think about the problem and just think about all the interactions of how you would tweak it, what you're going to allow me to customize, and make that as solid as you can. The other, I agree with Mel on even thinking about this nav menu block. Think about the simplest component of it and build that. Don't think about trying to make a whole header block when maybe you only need to build a nav menu block. That's actually a problem we started running into our contributor day where, wait a minute, we're going too complex. Let's simplify what we're trying to build here. And then the other is, if you do build an awesome custom block, consider suggesting back in core how the default blocks could get better to build on top of that. So if you build the best column block in the world, maybe suggest some things back to how we can actually improve the core project.
Well, and the column block, glad you mentioned it, really needs some improvement. Just putting this aside there. So Jeff Paul also on the YouTube channel has another question. It's like, of the sites that you've seen using Gutenberg already, which have done some of the coolest things that you're excited about and will bring Gutenberg into 2019 and beyond? You can also talk about your own sites.
I'll jump in again. Level. They did a really cool, maybe Mel was going to use that too. They did a really cool marketing web page, and there's some YouTube videos you can go watch showing how they actually built it in Gutenberg. And there was a circle that's in a background image circle that they show tweaking it and moving it around inside of Gutenberg. And to me, that was so exciting to see. Wow, this is Gutenberg, and this is a complex page. Yes, I'm sure there's setup to get to the place where you can do the tweaking, but it just inspires me for what I hopefully get to use in a year from now when Gutenberg has gotten better.
Yeah, that's also one of the examples that Matt showed in his State of the Word. He didn't mention it. And was that the same example that you had, Matt?
I was going to say the exact same thing. Yeah. But I really loved how Level did their background shapes and patterns. I thought that was super cool. Because it was something that I completely had like never thought about Gutenberg doing before. And suddenly I was like, oh my gosh, like they could do way more than I ever thought. Like this is a really cool idea.
Well, coincidentally, I think there were not, if not a finalist, a winner.
Yes.
At the inaugural Automatic Design Awards. Exactly with that, with the website. Yeah.
They won for best style and best site.
Right. Yeah. So how about you, Chris? What's your most exciting thing that you found on our website?
Yeah. I mean, I won't call out any specific site, but I will say that like for me, the things that I think are most exciting are when you try to do things in Gutenberg that you kind of know it's not quite meant to do yet. I think sites that do that are the most interesting. I think the Level site is a great example. Not that Gutenberg is intended to do certain things or not do certain things, but there were clear parameters, and anytime people kind of push outside of that, it's really exciting. For the project that I worked on, I don't think anybody expected like a magazine news style site to be able to generate basically their entire homepage design in Gutenberg, and to be able to arrange different, like to create collections of posts and have, all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't think anyone really thought that would be a phase one thing, but getting in there and kind of figuring out what if we did do that now, how would that work? How would that look? I think those are the things that expose kind of the rough edges in Gutenberg, which is exciting to me because then it's like, oh, that's like an area that I can contribute or that we can improve, or and so as a contributor, I think those are kind of the most fun things to see because they open up opportunities.
Yeah, what really excited me was after Belgrade, I found the VR image, the 360 image block. And I had a 360 image from a crypto of the new church that they're building. And the new church itself is not done yet, but the crypto was already done. And there was these mosaics from top to bottom. And I was, my husband and I, we were kind of competing who gets the best 360 video image of it because we both have pixels. And I was able to put this on my website, and people who are on mobile as well as on desktop, or even with their glasses, well, the what's it called? The VR headsets can travel through that, can walk that. It's just amazing, yeah, what this standard now does. So I have a few more questions. Where is it? Thank you, Jeff, for all these great questions that you had there. Oh man, I lost a little bit my oh, here it is. So yeah, you did the design advice. We already did this, but Joshua, so what is the current state of designing pages in Gutenberg? Where do you hope to things go from here?
If I'm trying to make more of a article page, like a blog article, I'm very happy in Gutenberg. I'm mostly happy in Gutenberg. I've been writing blog articles for the last couple of months, and default Gutenberg has been working pretty well for me. On that note, the things that are a little bit challenging are, what if I want a section with a full color background full color background color, and then text on top of that? And what if I want it to be a little bit smaller text? And then what if I want an image to the side? So starting to do things like that, that starts to break Gutenberg. It can't quite handle all that. So then I've been trying all the plugins to see what can help me. What I want is to be able to install additional blocks or additional block builders and be able to build anything I want without ever touching code. That's what I'm hoping, because I can write front-end code, but it's been a couple of years. It's not pretty. I don't want to do that if I don't have to. So what I would love is 6 to 8 months, maybe a year from now, I can build out almost anything I can imagine just using Gutenberg and using custom blocks or what Gutenberg offers by default.
Yeah. I've been on that journey since I think June. We said in our agency that we are doing every new site is going to be a Gutenberg site, no matter what, just to kind of push the limits there. And we succeeded, and we just did we just did a website for a nonprofit where we had, and I like the new cover image where you can put a video behind it and then text on top of it. But then you need a button for it. Yeah, you need a call out button, kind of. So and that's missing on the normal blocks, the default blocks. But I found quite a few block collections that actually give you that call out, but they weren't all that stable. So I went from bug report to bug report to bug report and didn't get my work done. But I think that it's going to level out now that the Gutenberg API is stable, or more stable than it was 3 months ago. And the plugin developers get so much more exposure now with the call out in the state of a word. There's now a new section in the plugins that holds the blocks on WordPress.org, the blocks plugin specifically for that. So I think there will be a lot of more going on. And there are, I would like to see a nice team page, that where the team is with the headshot and then the title and then a little bio, and have that standardized. I see quite a few of them, but it's all a little bit still experimental, I would say. Yeah. So we're coming up on the mark. I don't see any open questions, so that is good. I still have 2 questions for you, and I think we talked of most of them already. Hang on. So what is your favorite feature in Gutenberg right now? Joshua, do you have one?
Let's see. Yes, my favorite feature, and I mentioned it earlier, but I want to call out that being able, it's more a concept. I can now create things first in Gutenberg. If I'm going to go write a post, I just go create it first. I add text, I add my photos, I add my bullet lists, and I can use Markdown. Markdown works for the most part. So I can just go start writing without thinking about the interface. It's not perfect. There's ways to improve it, but that's huge, and I love that. I want to see that continue to get better.
Okay, Mel, what's your favorite feature on Gutenberg right now?
For me, it's a lot of the micro interactions. So, for example, this is so small, but the fact that I can like paste an image from my clipboard into Gutenberg is amazing. Just because like I try to do this all the time in P2, I try to do it all the time in Track, and obviously like none of them support that. But I can do it in like more modern things like Google Docs and GitHub. So the fact that I can do it in Gutenberg has made writing these like block process posts that I've been doing on my blog way easier. Because
how did I not know that?
Me, same thing. Yeah, how did I not know that? And I can copy paste images because I know. Yeah, in slide deck you can do this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's awesome.
Yeah. So how about you, Chris?
This is also kind of a micro thing, I guess, but the slash inserter is, I'm just in love with it. It's my favorite thing. I'm also a Notion power user, and if you've ever used Notion, there's definitely there's some relation to Gutenberg there in the family tree. And so having that in Gutenberg as well is just, it makes everything faster. So I love that.
So have you any, do you have any good use cases for the reusable blocks?
Yeah, our one of our clients anyway is using it for site-wide calls to action. I think what's going to be most exciting, I think reusable blocks are going to be really interesting once the content layout areas start to become more of a thing. For our clients, the way we handled that was basically we created a custom post type called layouts, and then we just kind of stick those in the templates wherever we need. And And so in those, like the client has different types of sidebars, like, hey, here's the sidebar that shows up on this category page, and here's one that shows up on this individual post article. And so for them being able to use reusable blocks to like have a call to action in 5 different places and edit it from one place, they've loved that. And that's been really valuable. They have they're a print magazine, so they have an archive of magazine issues, which are all individual entries in a custom post type. And so for those as well, they can go in and have one CTA that shows up on, all 30 issues of their magazine and be able to update them all at once. So that kind of thing, I think we're going to see more reusable blocks use cases once widgets and sidebars start to get moved and Gutified.
Well, I have found that reusable block make total sense when you go outside your own website because you can export them. And so this is important we had Giving Tuesday after Thanksgiving, right? Where our community foundation have giving days where they want the brand of the giving days be also noticeable on the nonprofit website that participate in it. So they could just have on their website a downloadable reusable block, and then people can import that and then reuse it on their site. This is pretty nifty.
And I think that can also relate to the idea of this block discovery system, because maybe you copy a block or a reusable block from another site and you paste it in and it says, hey, you need these 3 blocks for this reusable block to work. Do you want to install them right now? I think something like that, that's going to change that for sure.
Right. Yeah. And poof, mind blown, right? All right, we're coming to an end. This has been a great fun. Thank you so much for taking all the time and being very open and about what you learned about Gutenberg and what you want to do. So where can people, if they want to follow up with you, where they can find you? Where do you want people to connect with you? Mel?
So I'm at Mel Choyce everywhere on Twitter, on Slack, on WordPress.org, and on GitHub. So pretty much any of those places are good to get me. I'm in the design channel on Slack, constantly. So if you post something there, I'll generally see it within a couple hours.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah, I'm at Chris Van Patten everywhere: Twitter, WordPress, Slack, GitHub. And I also want to end on a parting shot, which is to plugin developers. As 2019 kicks off, the year 2019, not the theme, I'm really excited to see plugin developers get really brave about how they build blocks. Right now, a lot of what we're seeing are for existing plugins, that is, it's kind of re-implementations of shortcodes. And I understand that, but I think, it's easy to build that, but I'm excited in 2019 for people to start saying, how can we really leverage the block in ways that shortcodes couldn't be leveraged? So that's my challenge for everyone as they make their New Year's resolutions.
Great challenge. Joshua?
I'm at Joshua Wold on Twitter and on WordPress Slack. So those are probably the easiest places to find me if you want to chat. And joshuawold.com is my website where I write about things I'm working on generally.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to our viewers and listeners and for your questions. You can always send, if you have more questions, you can always send them to via email to me, or I'm on Twitter, BPH, or on Slack, or on, but our email address is Pauli, Pauli @gutenbergtimes.com. The recording is available on the YouTube channel, and we'll publish a transcript and audio on the podcast. And the podcast later this month. There is a quiet time between Christmas and New Year that I want to catch up on. We have now 7th episodes, and the next Gutenberg Times live Q&A will be on December 28th at 2 p.m. Eastern again. Tune in. We'll announce the lineup again on Twitter, Facebook, and email. You should subscribe to our email newsletter. And the show is sponsored by Polysystems and our generous patrons on Patreon. And if you find our work valuable, you can become a patron too. The link is in the description below. I will put it on the YouTube channel. And patrons on Patreon get first dibs on the live Q&A questions. So tune in. Until the next time, goodbye and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.